Oh, Stuart, hi. Well, I know it's taken a while again, but I thought we'd let the last podcast brew a bit. Stew.
Ruminate.
Yeah, just ruminate because it was so good. And it was so great to have, they say never meet your heroes, and I did. So to have Paul Simon on the last podcast just absolutely blew me away.
That's why I've never met Jeremy Beadle.
Have you not?
No, never meet your heroes.
You met Jeremy? No, you haven't. Jeremy Beadle.
Yeah, Jeremy Beadle. Such a trickster, charismatic entertainer.
That guy with a small hand.
Very small hand, never bought around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Never liked him.
No.
I never watched,
Beadle's about.
No.
Anyway, I've really interrupted your flow about Paul Simon.
You have.
You took a really classy opening and I've ruined it.
Jeremy Beadle, Anyway, so Simon, absolute legend, and has helped grow our social media numbers dramatically, and I think our most watched video on YouTube ever, which was great. So I wanted to start by we're called Dead's Not Punk for a reason, and you could say it's a play on Punk's Not Dead, but it's because a lot of the people that we admire and aspire to and really won't be with us that much longer. And I've got three people that I want to talk about in the opening instance. One of them hit us really hard, and the last time we saw Conflict was at the New Cross Inn about 6 months ago, and Colin only actually managed to do 3 songs and collapsed. And I met him outside, and I had a chat with him, and he said to me at the time, just don't put any of this on social media, and we deliberately didn't. And Fiona took over the vocal duties that night, and she was, I've got to say, she was absolutely excellent. And so big rest in peace to Colin from Conflict. I know you've probably got something to say as well.
Well, it's really difficult to know what to say, to be honest, because he had such a big influence on me, and we've talked about Conflict and Crass a lot, and just really dreadful. And we will go and see Conflict at Rebellion, and I know his kids have asked people to still go to the gigs and stuff, so we'll be there. And I know Fee and Gav will do their thing. So yeah, R.I.P. Colin Jerwood.
Okay, so in previous episodes, I think I've mentioned that I used to be a promoter back in the day, in the sort of early 80s, and one of the most interesting bands I put on in Scotland was a band called World Domination Enterprises, who had a major John Peel hit called Asbestos Let Asbestos, and unfortunately Keith Dobson from World Domination Enterprises passed away last week as well, so rest in peace to him. He was also in the band Here and Now.
Oh, yeah, Here and Now.
Yeah, with, another person who sadly died last week, Kit Labato, if I get that right, was the original drummer in Here and Now band, and he died.
Here and Now are a brilliant band, and they did that on that Give and Take album, their first album in the sort of late 70s. They promoted sort of free festivals, and were a sort of proto-punk band.
They
did that Floating Anarchy album with Gong.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant band.
That's your hippie shit, Gong.
It's not my hippie shit.
The minute you mention Gong, I'm like, I've turned off. I've gone.
You've gone. Well, there's nothing to bang on about.
No, but the drummer from Here and Now band latterly played in Zounds.
Yes, so that's right. Wow, yeah.
I don't just put this together in my lunch hour. I did my research on all the anarcho shit that we always go on about, right? So
right, okay. Anyway,
what gigs have you been to?
I went to Glastonbury.
Glastonbury.
Well, the lineup was a little bit thin. I went to see Neil Young.
The lineup was a little bit thin, but our bellies weren't.
No, I held it together on that front. But yeah, Neil Young, bit dull.
Yeah, I haven't gone the last 2 years for a variety of different reasons. Middle class wank fest is one of them.
Well, when I saw that Soho House had an area in the I mean, it's getting like a gobstopper in there where there's these different layers.
I know.
And at the middle, there's two people going, look how exclusive we are. We're the only two that can come into this bloody Airstream caravan in the middle of it all. Look, I had a good time, went with my wife, saw a load of friends. It was a good laugh. Thinking of the bands that I saw that I thought were really good.
But you didn't stay at Glastonbury.
No,
you stayed at Rockaway Park.
I stayed at Rockaway Park at Mark Wilson's place and from the Mob and his partner Marta, who were on site. So it was really weird. We stayed in their house while they were at Glastonbury.
What?
And we came in every day, because they were there. And
right.
We went back to theirs together. But had a really great time. Rockaway Park, of course, amazing place. And then, we went into Glastonbury and saw the bands. And I'm just trying to think who was great. I mean, the Prodigy were good, which is relevant for today's
Prodigy.
podcast.
I was going to come to that and round this up with the Prodigy were the best thing at Glastonbury, 10 times above anything else that was on. Obviously, I have
Kneecap. They were interesting, but let's not talk about them because everyone's talking about
them. I'd rather talk about things that nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
The OCs were probably the most exciting band I saw on TV. It's still on the iPlayer, so you can watch that. Turnstile are one of the most exciting bands I've seen in a long while. And I was listening to a bit of Turnstile before I came in tonight, and I was noticing, that they've done a whole album with Mall Grab, which is a mix of punk rock and electro music and, beats, and which also ties in really well with what we're doing tonight. And we'll get to that in a minute. And I went to see... Got to give a shout out to the youngest band in West London who are causing a bit of a storm at the moment, called the Wops, who are a couple of 10-year-old boys from Shepherd's Bush, and we're going to have them on the podcast for W. They played at a certain pub in Paddington about 2 weeks ago. You'd have seen all the stuff over social media. Paul Simonon did Guns of Brixton with them, which was really good. The Wops, a massive shout out to them. And
any other shout out?
Oh, I tell you, I went to see.
Go on.
And this ties in with, again, what we're going to talk about. I went to see Nine Inch Nails.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah, that's right.
I went to see Nine Inch Nails, and I was sitting there, and fucking Jamie XX and Daniel Avery are sitting out, just in the outside bit. So there's a real mix of fucking real hardcore punk rock and electronic music. And a shout out to Solly who took me. He phoned me up the Sunday and he said, I've got a spare ticket. Do you fancy going? I said, yeah, fuck it. The O2, never going again. Never going back.
No.
Well, we didn't have standing tickets. We had seated tickets, and I'm scared of heights.
Right.
And we were in row Z at the fucking top.
Did you get a nosebleed?
I did. I fainted. I completely whited out,
right.
And I had to get carried out after Wish. I wish I could have stayed till the end of it, because Wish was one of my favourite Nine Inch Nails songs. But I went to see Nine Inch Nails. Trent Reznor, musical hero, a bit of a musical hero of mine. So that was really good. And, the support at the O2 for Nine Inch Nails was Boys Noise. Again, dance music.
Yeah.
Right? And it ties in with what we're going to talk about tonight. Don't cut off now, because we mentioned the word dance music, because it means a lot to us as punk rockers. And,
well, it comes with lots of different sort of titles and connotations, doesn't it? So have you got any other...
I can't see without my glasses. I was trying to see if I had anything else to say there. I don't think so.
It's nice to see you've brought in some aide de memoire.
I have got something else to say before I pass it on to you.
Yeah.
It was our birthday.
It was our birthday, yeah. We know when we say it was our birthday, it's not us talking in the sort of
we're not
third
twins.
person like the Queen.
No. My birthday was on the 7th of July.
Yeah.
When I turned 21, plus 40.
Yeah. Mine was on the 12th.
Well, yours was on the day of the Battle of the Boyne.
Yeah. When William
Which always comes up on my phone when I'm thinking, why the fuck are they telling me about that? I don't want to know about that.
Yeah, 12th of July. So if anyone's thinking of anything to get us, we'll just send cash.
Yeah, cash will do fine.
Thank you.
Brown envelope.
Yeah.
So happy birthday to both of us. And we went out on Saturday night. We went to Dublin Castle and we saw, I can't really work out what they were called.
Punky Reggae Party.
Punky Reggae Party or Woking Calling.
Well, that was just, I think they were called Punky Reggae Party and their banner was Woking Calling because they're from Woking.
Yeah. And Chris, the singer and bass player, he used to be in the Chords.
Yeah.
Who had one of the finest post-punk records I fucking can't remember what it's called now. The chords.
I remember them because they had that sort of mod logo with
Yeah,
the
it was.
arrow on it.
Yeah, I think they toured with the Jam as well.
Yeah, but they were a Jam and Clash covers band.
They were.
And they were great. And
They were pretty good.
And we were pissed.
On Tequila, on Stuart's birthday. In fact, the drummer played for Gene October's Chelsea.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty.
Don't know whether I'm making that up. Might be a Tequila story, but
that's how you woke up remembering it. Anyway,
right? Do your research,
come on.
lads.
We're going to end up filling up all the time. We need to introduce our special guest. You've heard from us for long enough. Should I do it?
No, you're going to do the home.
Oh yes. Yes, thank you very much. You'd just take me home there. So before we introduce our very special guest, I'd just like to say a big shout out to Home, which is the House of Music and Entertainment. You can find them on homeuk.net, who very kindly allow us to use their studio to do our podcast. So a big shout out to Andy and everyone at Home for letting us use the space. Home is a workspace for people sort of connected to the music industry and the entertainment and arts industry. And if you're looking for a space to work, you could do a lot worse than check out Home.
It's a sauna.
It's very warm in here, yeah. It's very warm in here. You don't need those little injections if you want to lose weight. Just come on the podcast and lose pounds. Right.
So, I mentioned it earlier, and I touched on a bit of dance and electronica, and don't switch off, because one of the reasons that I got into punk and followed punk all the way through was, and I've told this story before, I'll tell it again. First gig I went to was the three bands. First band on were a band called the Automatics, who became the Specials, and that introduced me to reggae, blue beat, and Jamaican music. Second band on were a band from New York, Alan Vega and Martin Rev, and they were called Suicide, and they introduced me to electronic music and Cabaret Voltaire and Kraftwerk and Deutsche Amerikanische Freundschaft and a lot of like real hard electro records, which also led me into like Test Department and SPK and stuff like that, and more industrial Revolt and Cox. And Stuart and I used to work for a company in London, and so did our guest, and we all met there, and we all bonded together over a love of just great music, whether it was, from back in the 70s or back in the 80s or back in the 90s, and we came to the word T, and I've been always trying to, how can we get the word technopunk into the podcast? Because, a lot of the stuff that I listen to now, it has the same attitude, energy, and passion as technopunk. So I'd like to introduce John Askew to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for listening to us ramble on at the beginning there.
Yep.
You were very patient. A lot of other people would run screaming from the building, but you didn't. So thanks for
Well, that's why
around.
I was trying to keep that everybody in.
Yeah, no, you were. Yeah, it was good. It needed to be said. So thanks for coming on, John. Obviously, well known for being a DJ out there. I mean, I'm going to throw out the sort of phrases to describe the music, trance, techno, etc., which is a bit hackneyed because those are just labels. And, I know you can sort of merge lots of different things. But given that we're called Dead's Not Punk, what we did want to touch on was a bit of a diversification away from stand-up sort of punk bands, like we've been covering sort of quite a lot since we started, and get into some of the other things that sort of punk scene touched on. You mentioned some stuff there in the 70s, like SPK and sort of electro bands like Kraftwerk and Cabaret Voltaire, and then Throbbing Gristle went on to Psychic TV, Genesis Peorage, those sorts of pioneers who were definitely punk. But reading about you, John, and knowing you like we do, you were into rock bands in the early 90s, and then you go to a rave in Cornwall in 1993, and all of a sudden the scales fall from your eyes. You sell your guitar and you buy some decks. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was in various rock bands in early teens with the intention of being a guitarist in a touring rock band, as I'm sure a lot of people set out to intend to be, and recording demos on cassettes and sending them to record labels all over the country. And then in those days, to correspond with record labels, you were waiting for a fax or literally a letter to come back. And we got a fax back from Virgin. I guess the band I was in at the time, were the sound of it was very grunge inspired, kind of somewhere between Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, that kind of thing.
So what year was this? Was this about 96 or 95?
I'm not sure if I could. I was maybe 15, 16 at the time,
right?
And then basically Virgin Records replied and said, "Yeah, we like it. We want to come to one of your gigs." And we were like, "Well, we've only got one gig, and it's in it's just across the bridge into Wales." And so we responded back, and they said, "Yeah, we're coming." And then at the gig, I sort of we rehearsed like shit for weeks, and the gig went pretty well. It was really good. We're playing in the Skittle Alley at the back of a pub to 80 people, and then I can't remember. I've recounted various versions of this story before, but I can't remember what happened at the end. But the singer and I had a bit of an altercation, and I know it was something to do with the fact that he, you know, even though there were only 80 people, it was a really good gig and we played really well and we wanted to keep playing, and the crowd were like, "Yeah, come on, keep going." And he sort of did some sort of fuck you to the crowd and walked off, because I guess in his mind he thought there's someone from Virgin Records here and they'll think that's really cool. And so we had this kind of big fallout, and then the week afterwards I was in the town where I lived and in the pub getting pissed, and everyone who was in that town was either a rocker or a raver. So I was in there in my leathers and long hair, and one of my mates came in and said, "Look, mate, just take a break from all that shit and come to this rave this weekend." Went to it, took ecstasy for the first time, just got fucking out of my mind, and you know, lost myself in rhythmic music, which initially I was sort of like that. I just didn't get it at all, but it took that experience to understand it. But then the second half of the night, I sort of positioned myself just behind where the DJ was playing, DJ called Easy Groove, and was just watching him going through his vinyl, picking out records, queuing it up in his headphones and going, "No, that's not the right one. I'll get another one, get another one, get another one. And then this is the one." And then he'd just, you know, the room would go bananas. And I was like, shit, this is cool. I want to get into this. And also in that moment realized there's a potential way of doing something cool live that didn't depend on 4 people who maybe didn't have the same commitment to me in terms of the hours they wanted to put in. Yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, in that time, in the early 90s, I think it's probably the early 90s we're talking about. Obviously, music was changing from my experience. And I mean, you know, I remember being into bands, guitar bands, various different types, and repetitive beats and sort of dance music as we'd know now. The acid house sort of thing had just kind of happened in the underground and was starting to, you know, artists like Alternate and, you know, the 303 was being used, and you'd start to hear these sort of these tunes more and more.
Well, it was like, towards the end of the 80s, you know, the 3 that stand out for me were Chemical Brothers, who were the Dust Brothers, Underworld, and the Prodigy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
And a different Prodigy than they are now, because they were much more rave-orientated. I mean, Keith had his shaggy hair and his sort of baggy
they were very
pants.
much like a fairground ride on the waltzers. Go and watch the Prodigy back then.
I think that early... It's interesting, actually, because when we talked about me coming on this, I was like, shit, what am I going to talk about? I've listened to your podcast. You're 2 incredibly good friends of mine, but very knowledgeable people in the context of punk. And it's like, what the fuck am I going to talk about? But actually, those early days of rave in the late 80s and early 90s were a version of the same sort of counterculture that punk was in the 70s, which was a kind of fuck the system and a DIY party culture that actually entities like the Sun newspaper just blew up by doing these, you know, exposés where they were sort of saying, you know, hundreds of thousands of kids are going to these raves every weekend and getting high on the love drug, and it's just so bad. But all that was doing was advertising.
Yeah,
it.
we're at same 15 years previous when the filth and the fury of the Pistols being on the Bill Grundy
you know
show.
what I mean?
There was a really you're right, and there was a really interesting evolution because all the people that were going to festivals, particularly sort of free festivals and the ones on the edge, and being chased by the cops and the peace convoy and all the rest of it, the drugs changed and the music changed, and things like Spiral Tribe and Castle Morton and those sorts of events changed things forever, in the same way that the Sex Pistols and the Clash changed things forever. And I think you're absolutely right, which is why this is so relevant, because those sorts of artists and those sorts of records have their part to play in counterculture and alternative music. And
well, totally. I mean, we talked about this before we came on, and you look at Detroit techno, Chicago house, and we were buying records from America back in the day, and then all the splinter scenes that came off of that, and we touched on one earlier on, the Chris Liberator and the Stay Up Forever stuff had the whole that was born out of the free rave scene.
I mean, they were all punk rockers.
Yeah, I know.
All of those boys were punk rockers.
Yeah. That was born out of the free the free rave scene and stuff like that, and they were big records back in the day. And then it splintered off into Goa trance and Psy trance and all that. What was it? Escape to
Samsara,
at the
Rocket and
the Electric and
the Fridge,
and then drum and bass came along. And drum and bass, I mean, you've got to say, I'm a big drum and bass fan. Andy C's one of my favourite characters in dance music, as well as a DJ and producer. Some of his tracks are that fucking hard. They would put Nine Inch Nails to shame. They are. Sometimes you can feel the punk rock energy coming through in those records. And do you feel, it within the area that you splintered off into, there's anything that's got that real punk rock?
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, you can say punk is a genre of music, but it's also a movement, an attitude, if we say counterculture. And I think there's a lot of that in electronic music, which filters through. And as you said earlier, you've got bands like The Prodigy who will quite happily, headline stages at Donington or Rock AM Ring, and people who are rockers who go to those gigs who are very accustomed to being exposed to electronic music through bands like The Prodigy, who come on with that certain attitude. So, yeah, I think there's been a very big, I would say, sweep across Europe with this new hard techno scene, which has blown up. It was sort of starting to get big before COVID, 18, 19, and then it just went stratospheric. COVID obviously locking down the whole world, and that's when, the illegal rave scene just blossomed, whether you buy into whether that should happen or not. I mean, you just can't stop teenagers in early 20s from partying, and you can't say to them, stay at home for a year. That's just never going to happen. So the illegal rave scene just blew up again in COVID, up and down this country, and I'm sure all over Europe. And whether that fed into this new hard techno scene with artists like Klang Kunstler, I Hate Models, Sarah Landry, which is weird. It's interesting because the sound is actually very distorted, very underproduced, very, it's almost like the biggest labels that exist in that world, if you were to submit a demo to it and it was too produced, they'd turn it down because it's too good.
Yeah.
It needs to be a bit shit, a bit underproduced, a bit raw, a bit, and when you go to those gigs, it's almost like you can feel the people on the dance floor screaming and shouting as a form of release for having 2 years of their life taken away from them. And to me, that is punk.
Yeah, and they're not worried about whether it's mastered for radio or anything like that.
Who gives a fuck?
Who gives a fuck?
It's DIY partying.
Yeah.
We're not going to conform to your rules. We're not going to conform to needing to be in clubs with restricted times and blah, blah, blah. Although now this hard techno scene is so big that it is ticketed events, but it's a very raw, stripped back rave template in the context of, Stuart, you and I have talked about the the raves that were going on in Paris with I Hate Models, the possession raves, which are now all stopped. But these are like aircraft hangars with 30,000 people. And in an age when you've got people like Tale of Us and you know, where the visual component of a gig is as important as the music, you know, people putting millions into their, like Eric Prydz, and into their visual shows. And yet these parties, which were doing 30,000 tickets, there's no production whatsoever. It's just a sound system, some strobes, and a warehouse that is grotty.
Yep.
And the kids wanted that. They wanted to strip away all this, you know, bullshit that was unnecessary and just take it back to a raw experience. And I felt that was a very punk thing to me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that whole generation that's coming through now, you know, they're not interested in traditional clubbing.
No.
At all.
No.
There's a company called Lab 54 who we follow. The guy that runs it's 25, and he started doing house parties straight after. He did his first house party he did was for his brother when he was leaving Leeds Uni, and he filmed it, put it on social media, TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube, and went through the roof. His strap line for his company is anywhere but a club, which is punk rock.
We did a rave with them last year in a Greg's in Newcastle.
Really?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good guys.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, one of the things that punk did when it came around, not only did it sort of make better music, in my view, but it also really created an environment where indie labels, you know, labels like Rough Trade and, you know, Small Wonder, etc., really were kind of born from that, and you could put out your own records. And I feel that was a little bit of that happened also, you know, in dance music, and certainly when there's sort of a lot of the early acid house records came out, people were just putting them out. And also punk also gave an opportunity for women to be in bands, you know, where it was traditionally, not always, but largely male sort of dinosaur type artists, and a lot of women came through and it gave them a voice. But I've noticed that there's an awful lot of women DJs in the scene that you've just described. I mean, there was a moment, I have to say, that I looked at sort of German dance music, and it was lots of blokes it looked like they were architects in black turtleneck sweaters and sort of lots of black and white sleeves, looking wistfully at a building, a Bauhaus building, you know.
And every video they shot was running along a beach with a suitcase being chased by a blonde girl.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, is that a thing that you've seen?
Well, the sort of, I guess you say, inequality across the board in the music industry, I think has been, a super hot topic in the last, 7-8 years. But in electronic music, it's certainly been addressed. Whether you could argue that we have equality now, I'm not so sure. But there are now a multitude of huge headliners who are female who have come out and who are absolutely rocking it, and who are selling more tickets than anyone else, and they're great. And I think that's quite cool. I think it's good that it has been addressed. Whether it has been addressed enough, whether the equality is, whether the balance is, enough, I'm not entirely sure. But
you did see Nina Kravitz and Emily Lenz and those sorts of DJs sort of start to eclipse some of the sort of older school male. I mean, there's more, you know more about it than I do, Charlotte DeVitt and all those sorts of DJs. And I found that quite refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, these are the girls that we're talking about.
Maya Jane Coles, who's Mike Coles' daughter.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, there's this. It's a hot topic for sure. And you could even argue, though, in some respects, there's another argument to it, which I think is quite interesting. Which there's a guy in the Netherlands who's making a film about this, and I manage DJs as well, so he wanted Joris Vaughan, who I managed, to be a part of this film. So he called me and was telling me all about it. And one of the topics that we discussed on that phone call was whether certain promoters book female artists just to tick a box, and whether, DSPs give preferential treatment to, just to tick a box. And as a result, is there another imbalance starting to happen? And that's not to say that I don't agree with what's happening.
No.
But I think at the core, there are issues across the music industry where decisions are being made on the basis of ticking boxes, where it always ought to be just about the music.
Yeah, we need to get back to building boxes.
Well, if you're making fantastic music, then it doesn't matter whether you're male, female, black, white. It really doesn't matter.
So, and that's actually a really good point, because a lot of those, I'm not going to pigeonhole them, but a lot of those new artists, male and female, that have come up in the electronic scene over the last, sort of 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
They seem to have their one moment and then it disappears, and, it's like they can't follow it up with something else. And
there's a lot of that.
But, I've got to say, with I Hate Models, who I saw about 3 years ago at E1, and I came away and I went onto the DSPs, trying to look for some, and there was like one track on there at the time. And, there's no marketing, there's no, you don't know when the next one's coming out. They just seem to drop. Like there doesn't seem to be a plan. The plan that I can see in that area is based about live and based about ticket sales. Because none of them have released any, records that you would go, fucking hell, that's a tune. Do you agree or not?
I do agree completely, but it's sort of like, this is one of the biggest topics when we're in the office at the moment is social media now more important than music? And are streaming platforms, booking agents, management companies just scouring TikTok and the wider internet for spikes in viral content? There are DJs who have gone from nothing to one viral video, and suddenly they're in a headline position for the festival season that summer. And, like, I only know them because of one video, and it's the same for everyone else. I couldn't tell you a single record they made. And I'm not saying that, I'm not so old school that I'm like, oh, it's all fucked, and it's not like it was back in the day. It's not like that. It is the way it is. You got to learn to go with the flow of the river. But I do think that right now, across the board, in music, full stop, in all genres, the music itself is being pushed further and further down in favor of frivolous bullshit that has a lack of sincerity and a lack of depth.
It's almost like some school of thought would say that the more frivolous and homogenous and vacuous it gets, the more it's creating the perfect conditions for another sort of reaction to that. When punk came along, and we've just talked about acid house, and these things, the flow of the river always finds a way. And
I talk about that quite a bit in my other job. Punk explosion being there, acid house explosion being there. The last musical explosion was digital. And it's just changed the world and the way that people consume music completely. And to be in a band nowadays, or to be a DJ and a producer, you've got to be aware of everything that's out there. It's no longer, you'll get a play on Pete Tong on Friday, or a play on Steve Lamacq on a Wednesday night. You'll get an NME review, a Mixmag review. You'll be on the,
get signed by selling out the Dublin Castle.
A tour, and you're off on tour, and suddenly you're up and running.
Yeah.
And you're freaking, you're away. It doesn't work like that anymore at all. And so I'd like to, at this point, to say all power to all the DJs, producers, bands and artists that are out there struggling at what is the hardest time for live music and events when you're coming through as a new artist. So all power to all. I
saw the Music Venues Trust, who are sort of work out of home sometimes, and so I see them in the office, did a really great thing around the recent Oasis shows that are happening at the moment, and they put a poster on their website of the first proper Oasis tour, and then they crossed out all the venues that weren't there anymore, and it was like 2/3 of the venues that they played. How important were they? Are gone, and it is really difficult. But yeah, I mean, the impact of socials. Is social media more important than music? I mean, that's a headline
not
right
to the
there.
three of us sat here,
Yeah,
and it never will be.
but to the industry, the so-called music
even when
industry.
we set this podcast up, I was given the task of, right, you do the socials, I haven't got a fucking clue what I'm doing. Honestly, for all
you should have watched me trying to plug the mics in tonight. We're both clueless.
There's people, I think we've been hacked about 3 times on Instagram and hacked.
People are just trying to steal our enormous database.
Well, exactly, but it's funny though, which is leading into the this sort of next part of the conversation. I did see somebody in the music industry posted on social media today, and it's going to lead me into another topic about he's doing coaching services through his Facebook page. It's not him. It's all done by AI. It's all done, and they've actually photographed him, and it's not him, but it looks as though it's him that's talking. His voice, but it's definitely not him. Like the
band,
the Velvet Sundown.
Yeah.
Go and check them, or don't go and check them on Spotify.
Yeah.
Tell fucking Daniel Ek to get them to fuck off Spotify, because they're an AI-generated band that don't exist. And for any of you out there who may be listening to on Spotify, we might not be on Spotify much longer if Daniel Ek keeps putting money in to making arms to attack Palestine. Just thought I'd make that clear.
Yeah. It's embarrassing that we have to be on these things.
But you have to be. If you're not on it, you're not with it. I mean, we've tried them all. We're on fucking Mastodon. I think we've got 1 follower on Mastodon, who I thought
I thought they were a metal band.
Yeah, I thought they were a metal band.
Slayer.
They're another social media network.
They've changed their singer.
Have they?
Yeah.
To Blue Sky?
I didn't know that. No, not Blue Sky, but Mastodon, the band. Anyway.
We've tried. We're trying. Social media is... it's a hellhole.
It's a hellhole.
You
What kind of music are you listening to?
This is going to be a bit controversial, but I would say the most listened to thing at the moment on my... In fact, do you know what? Why don't I tell this story? You recently got married, and I was at your wedding, and you gave a fantastic best man speech.
Thank you very much.
That was very, very good. And I was sat at the table next to this old dude, and our wives were sort of chatting, and we were chatting to each other. And I said to him, and he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm in dance music, electronic music. He was asking loads of questions. I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a booking agent. And I said, who do you look after? He said, Metallica.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, we're getting stuck into this. So they couldn't bring the wine quick enough. And we were taking turns to go to the bar and prop up the wines with gin and tonics, and much to the dismay of our wives. And I sort of, through the haze of this brilliant afternoon chatting with him, I said to him, in your opinion, who is the hottest band in rock and metal right now? And he said, hands down, Sleep Token. There is no band hotter. And this is before the current year, you know. So so I followed them on Spotify there and then, and left, forgot about it. And then about 6 months ago from now, 2 other guys who work in my office were all big metal and rock fans. We were talking about stuff, and he mentioned Sleep Token. I said, oh shit, that's the band that I found out about. So I went home that night and I listened to all of their albums end to end. And when I got to the end of it, I was like, fucking hell. When I first looked at the profile picture on Spotify, I thought this is just like screaming death metal and which I'm quite into at some stages, but it's not that. It's very, very well put together music. It's very well composed. It encompasses so many different genres and styles, from rock to metal to hip hop to pop.
You know what they've got? They've got songs.
They are amazing.
And they've got melody.
They're amazing.
And they've got choruses.
They're
and they've
amazing.
got middle eights, and they've got lyrics.
Yeah.
And they've got a dedicated fan base.
Yeah.
Who will go out and...
they headline download, don't they?
Yeah.
And they just bring out their new album, and do they go on a massive tour? Do they do loads of interviews? No. They do no press, no interviews, and they only do 2 gigs. They headline Donington, they headline Rock am Ring, and that is it. I think that's just a power move in the context of everything we just talked about with social media and all that bullshit, right? And I have to say, they are worth the hype, and I am obsessed with them, and I'm listening to their music nonstop. And what I really love is that the drummer and the bass player are from Wootton Bassett.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Royal
is,
Wootton Bassett.
well, it's now Royal because of all the dead soldiers that were ferried through it. But yeah, they're local boys for me. So that's amazing.
Where's Wootton Bassett? Is that near Swindon?
Yeah.
It's on the M4.
Right, okay.
It's near Swindon.
Yeah, we've been to your house, John.
Should we tell that story?
No.
And
it was his old house anyway.
I think Stuart will get into trouble.
I will. We're not doing that. No.
No, we shan't tell that. So that was a great weekend.
We'll have that. We'll tell that story when you come on the podcast next time.
Okay.
We've got to save some treats.
Yeah, okay.
But Sleep Token's a good shout. And they're on Spine Farm Records.
Yeah.
Well, and they're not now, actually. They're on RCA.
Yeah, they are.
And managed by Ryan from Funeral for a Friend.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Richards. Very nice man. If you're listening, Ryan, hello. So listening to Sleep Token, that's amazing. And what else was I going to ask you? Oh, so other than going out and playing out and clubs and raves and all that stuff, what was the last gig you went to?
Funnily enough, I went to that Bullet for my Valentine and Trivium, 20-year the Poison and Ascendancy album tour at the O2, which was fucking great because that is probably my favorite metal band and favorite metal album, The Poison.
For my Valentine.
Yeah, I look. I mean,
do you remember?
There's a bit of hard techno in that as well.
There is. The rhythms.
Yeah, totally.
Do you remember turning up for my 40th birthday quite late and drunk? Remember when it was my 40th and we went? You were there. There was a pub we went to in Chelsea, and John turned up late. He was hammered, and the first person he went up to him went, "Oh, I'm John." And it was their manager. And it was so funny. You were absolutely hammered. Brilliant.
I was trying to tell him how amazing his band was. And I think he said, look, is there any way you could have this guy removed?
Stop bugging me. No, very funny.
Is it like the that classic meme that went around about the Scottish guy? I'm the manager of Pikes in Ibiza here. I've got your friend. I'm not your friend. No, you've got to leave. And it's
so good.
I'm not going to tell you any more about it. No. Search for it. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
So what are you up to now then?
Well,
music-wise, obviously, not like tonight.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I'm making as much music as I can, but I predominantly work in management as well, so I'm managing a lot of artists who are much bigger than me, and that takes up a lot of time. But what I tend to do in the context of making music and producing is I take the first 2 weeks of January off every year, which is the only time the music industry is properly dormant. So the phone's not going to be ringing at least till the 10th anyway. But and I go to Wales, remote place, take my studio. And just get fucking stoned and make tunes for 2 weeks. And then that tends to be the backbone of all the music I'm going to release for the year. And then it's sort of, then playing them out and tweaking them, playing them out, tweaking them. So musically, I'm releasing maybe a track or a remix once every 3-4 weeks. My record label 7 is going to be 10 years old next year. So working on quite a few things for that, albums, shows in Los Angeles, Poland, Amsterdam, Manchester. So lots of kind of celebration stuff to do.
It's quite an interesting thing. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's quite an interesting thing. You mentioned 7, the label, because I've followed that, and because you got a few other artists on the label. But there's quite a lot of punk kind of imagery. I mean, I think you either gave it to me or I got it from somewhere. Had a Neon Punks T-shirt that was your label.
That's right.
And some of the other designs are quite punk. Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I come from a rock background, and even though I diverted and went off to be a DJ in electronic music, I'd give it all up in a heartbeat to have still made it as a guitarist in a rock band because, that's what it was about. And I have had the privilege of traveling the world many, many times over and having amazing adventures and good shit. But, it's all solo.
Mhm.
And
Do you not get a bit lonely?
no, I mean, I'm quite happy to be in
Yeah,
in hotel rooms on my own. Like, you know, I've got no issue traveling alone. I quite like it, but at the same time, there was a certain like, wouldn't it be awesome to be
If you
doing
had-
this with your three best mates?
See your mates and
You know
somebody
what I
else
mean?
is driving the
Yeah,
car.
yeah, you know what I mean. Just
Yeah.
the chaos you could do
Mm.
as a band on tour. I and also just playing guitar. I still own guitars. I have guitars in my studio, but my two hands have stopped communicating with each other, so I can't really play anymore. But yeah, that was always the dream, and I would have definitely preferred to have gone down that route. Not to say that I've not enjoyed every second of.
And did you learn to DJ on vinyl, or was it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Okay. So.
I mean, this is well before. I mean, when the three of us met,
Mm.
I joined Ministry, I guess, probably about a year and a half before the death of vinyl, and the sort of sudden panic stations, and you know, it was chaotic.
Yeah.
You know, records that were selling 50, 60,000 copies were down to like 2,000 copies, 1,500.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the space of 6 months. It was fucked. So vinyl was always my thing, my medium. The interesting thing though is now, like a lot of promoters that I play for, you know, once, twice a year, will always say, look, we'll pay you a hefty sum to come and do a vinyl set. And I'm like, fuck no.
Well, I saw that Carl Cox is supporting the Prodigy on their April dates, doing a 2-hour
three decks.
Yeah. vinyl only.
Yeah. But I mean, he's always kept that up. And I got my decks out the other day and just, you know, I'm like, no, this is shit. And
Really?
It's
Compared to what it is in the digital world with CDJs.
I mean, you know, I could teach anyone to DJ in a couple of hours.
Right.
The technology is fucking superb. I mean, there's still an art to it.
Could maybe, Stuart and I were maybe looking for a week. We might be, this is an exclusive for tonight. We may be starting a club night in London called T Technopunk.
Really?
Yeah. So it'll be once, or we'll probably start it once a quarter.
Yeah.
But
we'll start with a quarter.
Yeah.
A bit,
ease your way in.
Ease your way in, and then you're 12 pills there. Anyway.
Yeah.
See, you know what? I was playing a festival in Amsterdam 2 weeks ago, and my mate Greg Downey said to me, he challenged me to make a 1 hour set only, and you know, i.e. enough music to play a 1 hour set, but you're only allowed, all the audio in it has to be sampled from rock and metal tracks.
Really?
But it has to be applicable to play in an electronic music club.
Right.
Wow.
But you're not allowed to get anything from anywhere else.
Did you do it?
No, I accepted the challenge, but
Have you done it?
well, no, that was 2 weeks ago.
Well, give the boy a chance.
It's going
No,
it'll take about a year.
Yeah.
So next time you come on,
Well, when you got your club night up and running, I'll come and
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, no, you come and
Yeah.
play a club night.
Yeah,
You'd
I'd
be
love
a
that.
great special guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could do it, and we could.
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
be at the bar.
We could just tell John what records to
Yeah,
play.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah,
Now you're playing Ghost Rider by Suicide.
yeah. Wow.
We could even be like the moving swiftly on there as John's mixing the records together.
While he's putting that together, I could do 2 and 2, 22. Kelly's eye number 1.
Legs 11.
Yeah. No, anyway, but seriously, we are thinking about doing Club Night.
I think you should.
But this is the thing. This is what we've been discussing. Do we just get some software on our laptop and just drop the tracks in? And you can, you know, I've used that software before, and you can mix them together and you can get the BPMs kind of
This
balanced.
is for the pub.
Yeah, it's for the club.
Yeah.
Or you could get some CDJs, you know, some CDJs.
I mean, all clubs will have CDJs, and the new CDJ 3000s, you can not only beat match.
Yeah.
You have a sync button, you can press it so it matches to the BPM of the other one, but you can now also change the key.
Love
Right.
it.
So if this one's in A sharp
Yeah.
or B flat, you know,
Punk rock.
Yeah.
Any more than 3 chords and it's jazz. Any
Yeah.
more than 3 buttons and it's
Yeah.
a fucking plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look. Have you any other little delights from you?
No, John and I share a lot of stories that are probably not for broadcastable material. But
it's a shame. I was really hoping
Yeah.
we would tell some of those because they were very, very
well,
punk rock.
Well, I think what we'll close on is because obviously you got to come back.
Mm-hmm.
You got to come back.
Every guest has to come back.
Yeah, you got to
because we've run out of guests.
Because just keep recycling them. It's recycling, people. But the one story I will tell, because it was the three of us, was that back in the day we used to go to the Reading Festival. Do you remember that? We went to the Reading Festival.
We were always at the Reading Festival.
Every year we went to the Reading Festival in the 90s. And one year we went, we were away from the missus. And
he said he wasn't going to say this one.
Go on, tell it.
And we were in the hospitality area, and I think we walked in, and within 40 minutes, various things had been purchased, and we were in a cab
leaving,
and we went back to your house and spent the weekend hiding behind the curtains in your house.
We watched Trainspotting, I believe.
Yeah, we watched Trainspotting, and then we watched Reading on telly, so we could remember.
And then we texted our respective missuses and go, "Oh, Arctic Monkeys are good, aren't they?" Turned up the telly volume, but we weren't there. We were in your living room with the curtains shut, and it was so dark. I remember crawling up the curtain at one point.
Yeah, I remember that too. You were hiding behind it.
Behind the curtain. So
I remember saying to John, "It's all right, John. I don't feel the cold. I was outside." And he went, "Stuart, just come in. You're blue." Just so bad.
I mean,
as Zamel from Grange Hill says, "Just say no, kids.
Just say no."
That was then, and this is now. Of course, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, of course not.
No, we'd go to Ewan's.
No, you wouldn't.
Right. I want to say thanks to John for coming onto the podcast. Absolutely brilliant.
Yep.
And I haven't thought about some of that stuff for a very long time. And we're definitely having you back on too. Well, we certainly want to hear about that set.
Yeah.
And I want a copy of it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
No problem.
Absolute pleasure.
Well, quick roundup. Our next podcast will be live from a Rebellion Festival in Blackpool. 4 nights of reviews done every morning.
We'll take a pause on the A to Z for Rebellion and just cover the 4 days like we always do.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it, actually.
I'm quite looking forward to it. I hope I don't get involved in Seagull Gate again this year.
You were attacked by a seagull in your bedroom.
It came in my bed at 7 a.m. on the Monday morning after 4 days of debauchery, and this thing with a massive beak took me on. I kicked it. I have no cruelty to animals at all. No. I hate that. To kick it out the back door. They're horrible things. Seagulls.
Yeah, they're absolutely massive. It was like an albatross.
Especially when you're lying there naked.
Yeah. You're lucky you got away with...
Yeah.
Could have gone for your chipolata.
Steady. Right.
Yeah.
What a great episode.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Fun.
So, Rebellion next.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant to have John on. Lots of things to think about. Loads of bands, artists, and tracks to go and find out more about. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
And, hopefully I'm not sweating like a Reform MP going through his DBS check.
Yeah.
I will leave that to you now, guys, and see you soon.
Yep.
I tried coke and it made me ropey. I tried dope and it made me dopey. I think I'll stay away from all that junk, 'cause there's a punk, punk's not dead and there's a punk.